Okay, so I will be discussing how are you going to make the results section of your paper. For the quantitative research class, let's call it results. So the title will really have results. Pero for the qualitative paper, I guess merong isang quali na paper here. It will be called findings of the study. But nevertheless, how you're going to present your data will be the same. So mag-result section ako, wala pa yung REC, but I really need to discuss this kay wala po tayo ma-exam kung dili ko mag-discuss ani. So again, the results section is where you are going to show your reader or present to your reader the findings or the data you have gathered using your methodologies. So all the information, even if numerical data man yan siya or textual data siya, you have to present everything in the results section. Now, in the results section, the data have to be organized properly in logical sequence. And what sequence is that? It is according to your statement of the problem. So SOP yung ating magiging guide for the arrangement of the data. And take note that the presentation of the findings of the study should be unbiased and devoid of interpretation, meaning we will not going to interpret the results in this section. All interpretations and analysis will be placed in the discussion section. Okay, you're done with the IM for IMRAD, Introduction and Methodology. So we are just waiting for the results so you can make your results section and also your discussion section. But for results, purely presentation of the results only, no interpretation of data. Okay, now what are the importance of a good results section of the paper? It is very important to know na pag nag-present kayo ng data sa paper ninyo, you have to bear in mind na you do not prove anything. Yes, we have data, we have gathered information, we have numerical values, but keep in mind that we don't prove anything with those data. It's just a result of your investigation. Okay? Now, it doesn't matter if you have a very lengthy results section or a very short na results section kasi the length of this section is dependent also on our statement of the problem. Definitely, if we have a lot of statement of the problem, we will be expecting a lengthy din na results section. Okay? And then, since it is dependent on the statement of the problem, you should not include any data that is not asked in the SOP. Okay? So, for example, SOP number 1, what is the demographic profile of the respondent in terms of age? So kung age lang yung question mo doon, in the results section, you will also present age only of the respondents. You should not present sex or educational attainment if you did not include them in the first place in your statement of the problem. So please take note of that. I hope when I check your paper for the results section and even during the final defense, we will not see data that are not asked in the SOP. Okay, so what are the contents of the results section? The first part will be an introductory part, meaning an introductory paragraph. And in there, you just have to restate the objectives of your study, what you really want to know or what you really want to achieve in your investigation. So just restate it in the first paragraph. And then after the introductory paragraph, we will be it will be followed by the data or the gathered information. Pwede siyang in non-textual method, just like the use of figures, charts, photos, maps, and most of the time we use tables in presenting our data. And then after that will be the textual presentation. Meaning, after example, you have the table, you have to explain what is in the table, or you have to describe the data in the table. And you just have to highlight the most important or the most salient information you have gathered or you have found out in your study. Again, description lang, no interpretation. Okay, and then lastly, on the last part of the results section will be a synthesis of everything, meaning a little summary of all the things that you have found out in your investigation. Okay, and you have to use past tense here since you are done with the data gathering. You are done with your methodology. Okay, sige, note ko yan, Kyrie. Any question so far? I hope by the time, since you will be gathering data by February or by March, so most likely you will be making your paper siguro end of March or early May. I hope you can still remember what we have discussed here and ma-apply nyo siya doon sa paper ninyo para hindi tayo pabalik-balik and wala tayong masyadong kuris-kuris sa paper ninyo. Now take note of the sequence. You have to follow the order of the statement of the problem. If your first statement of the problem is asking about the demographic profile of your respondents, dapat yung unang result na ilalagay mo in this section will also be about the demographic profile of your respondents. So, dili dapat siya masaag-saag ha, na number 1 ninyo demographic profile, pero ang table for the demographic profile nasa last. Hindi dapat ganon. Always go back to your SOP and arrange your results according to the arrangement also of the statement of the problem. So, it should be in chronological order according to SOP, and then take note, non-textual element first. So it may be a table or it may be a graph, and then followed by the textual presentation. So always ganun yung sequence. Table or graph, depende on what is most applicable in the presentation of your data. And then again, it will always be followed by a textual presentation. That will be a description of the non-textual element, highlighting again the most important result. So in the presentation of our data class, paulit-ulit lang ito, we have 3 ways. It can be through textual presentation or tabular, pwedeng through the use of table, which is actually pinaka-ginagamit compared to the graphical presentation. So when you say tabular presentation, we will be organizing our findings or our numerical data or whatever data that we have collected into tables. Meaning we are going to compress everything in a table, but do not place a raw data in in a table sa results section. Kailangan naka-summarize na, kailangan naka-compress ng lahat. Baka kasi you have 100 respondents and you will really place all the data for the 100 respondents in a table. Masyadong malaking table yon. So again, kailangan natin siya i-summarize or i-compress. So I told you a while ago that this is the most widely used non-textual presentation for research because if you use table in organizing and summarizing your data, it will only require little na lang of the textual presentation. Kasi yung table kasi madaling maintindihan. If, for example, the reader would look at your table, most of the time, maintindihan niya if properly labeled lang and properly constructed ang table, madaling maintindihan kung anong nakalagay dyan. Okay? So again, madali siyang ma-interpret, madaling mag-group yung ating data through the use of table. Okay? So even if you don't read anymore the textual presentation, actually most of our readers can understand what are the data that are included in the table. Okay? Pag qualitative, same pa rin. Sa qualitative, if ever you will have data about your participants, then you can use the tables. For example, like you want to have an information or you want to show an information about your about the demographic profile of your participants, you can arrange that into tables. But most of the time, for qualitative research, it can be graphical presentation and the bulk will be textual. So, textual talaga for qualitative research. Sa quantitative, mas madami yung table kesa sa textual presentation. Kasi again, organizing our numerical data in a table will make it easier for our reader to understand and comprehend the gathered result. So in constructing a table class, you should have a title. So the title will just be the table itself, table and then the number. So for example, table number 1, and then you will have a heading. Kung ano yung laman ng table natin. For example, table number 1, demographic profile of the respondents. That will be the heading, the demographic profile. So again, the heading will be about the data that is included in the table. I will show you later how the previous batches made their results section using tabular presentation, graphical presentation, and syempre the textual presentation. Okay, now for graphical presentation, syempre from the name itself, we are going to use graphs or charts in presenting our data. And we have different types of charts. It can be it can be a pie chart. Most of the time, we use the pie chart for the demographic profile. Kasi we can easily see the comparison between the categories that we have in the demographic profile. Like kung babae and lalaki, ilang percent, we will easily see that sa pie charts. So yun yung mostly nakikita ko na use sa pie charts sa demographic profile siya. Now, I seldom see the other types of graphs though. The bar charts, I only see this if applicable during experiments with animal studies. Yun lang yung time na nakikita ko si bar charts. Di kasi masyadong madali maintindihan class yung ibang types of graphs natin. Like when you see this bar, we cannot really easily understand anong ibig sabihin niya. Kaya seldom lang sila ginagamit. We will still rely on the textual presentation if we are going to use the other types of charts, especially these flow charts, line graphs, the cosmographs, and even the pictographs. Depende lang talaga siya if applicable and if needed in the study. But most of the studies nowadays don't really require graphical presentation. Most of the panelists will have you transfer the graphical presentation to appendices and just use tables and the textual presentation. So we don't really use this much. Okay? Magsasabi naman yung panel if gusto nila makita yung graphical presentation or hindi. Mag-stick lang siya sa dalawang form. Most likely, andyan talaga si textual presentation, but you have the option whether to use the tabular presentation in combination with the text or you may use the graphical presentation. So, combination of the two yan siya if ever we're going to make na your results section. Okay? I'll be looking for studies later that used graphical presentation, but I doubt if I can see one since hindi talaga tayo fan of the graphical presentation for research. So even the demographic profile will be presented using the tables. Mas madali kasi siyang maintindihan ng readers kesa sa ito. Especially the bar charts. If we don't, ginagamit lang natin si bar charts if we want to compare something. Kasi you will see there like 3 bars here. Most likely it's for comparison of the results of the investigation. So if we don't want to compare, then we can just use the table for this. And then lastly, the textual presentation. This is very important kasi ito, lahat ng results will have the textual presentation. Yung iba, pwedeng naka-graph, pwedeng naka-table, pero dapat may textual presentation talaga. Now, what is in the textual presentation? Again, you only include the description of the table, for example, or the graph. Ano lang talaga, description, what is in the table. Anong data ang nakalagay sa table, but you have to highlight the most important data that you have gathered and nakalagay doon sa table ninyo. Okay? It may be highlighting the highest value na nakuha ninyo. Example, yung mga respondents ninyo, very high yung score nila for a certain area. So you highlight that. Or you may highlight their lowest score. So dito na area, masyadong maliit yung nakuha na scores ng mga respondents and so on. So that's how you do the textual presentation. Yung mga data in between, most of the time, we don't include that in the textual presentation. Okay? Nilalagay lang natin na this table shows, example, the demographic profile of the respondents. So example, 50% of the respondents are male or were male, and then 50% were female, and so on. Wala ng other interpretation. Again, the interpretations will be placed in the discussion section. Okay, so in the organization and approach in writing the results section, you just have to present a synopsis, meaning a summary. For the textual presentation, just a summary of the description of the data included in the non-textual form. Okay? So explanation lang or description lang talaga ng key findings. Okay? I-present nyo lang and then i-explain it. Pero hindi nyo siya dapat ihalo-halo. Kung table 1, demographic profile lang talaga yan lahat. I-explain nyo muna yon or i-describe nyo muna yon before kayo mag-move on to table number 2. Kung ano man yung nasa table number 2. So always yan siya nakapasunod, table, text presentation, another table, and then text presentation na naman. Okay? So, what are the things that we need to avoid in making the results section of our paper? Again, do not ever discuss or interpret your results. Just present it. Okay? Present the results. You may highlight the most important things, but do not interpret. Lagay mo lang, yan ang highest, ito ang lowest. That's it. So that is the reason why I told you a while ago na for quantitative data or quantitative research, mas marami pang table kaysa sa explanation or sa textual na presentation. Okay? So again, do not report background information or do not attempt to explain, when you say explain there, yung interpretation ng findings mo. But please do not ignore negative results, because negative results are still results. Okay? So kung ito yung score ng respondent mo, maliit talaga ang score niya, report mo kasi that's the result of your respondent. Okay? So do not ignore negative results. Or kung experimental ang study niyo, especially sa experimental na study, most of the researchers don't like the negative ones. Actually, hindi naman talaga natin gusto yung negative na result. But wala tayong magagawa. A negative result is still a result and you have to report it. Okay? And then do not include raw data or intermediate na mga calculations in the results section. All the raw data and all the computation, if ever meron, will be placed in the appendices. Again, nasa appendices dapat yan sila lahat. Okay? Be factual and concise as possible. walang gagawa ng sariling data kasi pag nakita negative ang result, I don't like this, so i-change, mag-manipulate. So hindi pwede yon. Actually nakikita talaga yan even in the defense. So minsan nagti-think ang student na hindi malalaman ng panel ito, pero actually ano talaga, nahuhuli talaga yan during the defense. And pag nahuli yan, papaulitin kayo from scratch. That will be a problematic one. Okay? And then do not present the same data or repeat the same information more than once. If tapos ka na sa table number 1, that's it. Tapos ka na doon. Move on. And just present the next set of data and explain it. Okay? And please make your table na easily ma-understand and ma-comprehend ng reader. Basig confusing kaayo ang table. But I'll be showing you an example later. This is the last slide. So let's have the examples on how they presented their table. Let me just open some examples. I will also show you class an example of our results section of a qualitative research since we have a qualitative study here. Paano nila present yun. Okay, wait. Excuse me. Let us start with let us start with a descriptive study and let's look at how they presented the results. Why? Hindi siya mag-preview. Wait lang, kaya nag-load. Oh, ako na lang siyang i-download. Kadyot lang. Hindi siya mag-preview. Oh, ito din naman. Saan na yan? Okay, so this one is a medtech research just last year. So sa fourth year ninyo. So this one is a quantitative descriptive research and let's look at how they presented the results of their study. Okay, look at this. So the title class is results. And remember, nasabi ko kanina, we have an introductory paragraph restating the objectives of the study and a summary of what you have done in your research. Okay? And then, after the introductory paragraph, they have now their first table. So, ito, wala ako makita dito na graphical presentation. Purely tabular presentation and textual presentation lang sila. So, since their first statement of the problem is asking about the demographic profile, then as you can see, automatic demographic profile of the respondents, this time in terms of educational attainment. So wala kayong nakita dyan na raw data ha, hindi ito raw data, summary ito, like frequency. Sa kanilang respondents, 155 yung college graduates and so on. Okay, and then after the table, they have now the textual presentation. Take note of the textual presentation, it's very limited. Kasi again, we don't include the interpretation. You just have to state what is in the table and you just have to highlight the most important things. Okay? I-highlight niyo lang yung pinaka-importante. So, marami silang table actually kasi marami silang demographic profile. So, ito, occupation, meaning they have separated, isang question lang ang demographic profile, di ba? Pero in terms of, so, kung ano yung letter A dyan, kung sex yan, so sex dapat yung unang table. So sa kanila, educational attainment, tapos occupation. Iba-ibang table yan. Kasi pag hinalo-halo natin ito, malibog na ta, dili na ta makasabot o unsay gibutang nila sa ilahang table. So mana siya na naka-separate. So separate table for separate demographic profile. And after the table class again, you have there the textual presentation but devoid of the interpretation. So marami pa ito kasi nga marami silang demographic profile. This is the last one pala, family monthly income. Before sila nag-table number 4, and ito na yung result ng study nila. So this is how you present. If you have a questionnaire, this is how you present your results for the questionnaire. Take note, di ba meron kayong mga items dyan sa questionnaire ninyo, salin niyan sila isa-isa, and you just have to present the mean. Okay? Ito yung sinasabi ko na no raw data should be found in the results section. So mean lang ng bawat item sa kanilang questionnaire. And then do not ever forget the verbal description of this number. So anong ibig sabihin pag 1 ang score nila? Paano mo siya i-interpret? Okay? So ayan, konti lang yung textual presentation nila. Mahaba yung discussion na section kasi yung interpretation of the results will be included here. Okay? So hindi ganon karaming pages yung results section nila, class. Mas marami pa ang table kaysa sa textual presentation. I just don't know if in their appendices they have included a graphical presentation. Let me check. I think wala na. Hindi na siguro pina-include. Kasi makikita naman agad sa table ito. Hindi ko maabot sa last. Wala ata. Copy lang ito na informed consent, validators, validating instrument, map. I think they did not include the graphical presentation anymore. Okay. So that's how you are going to present the data for a descriptiveness study. Let me check for the experimental ones and then we'll move on sa after sa quali. Excuse me. Okay, so this one is for the experimental na study. So again, the same thing, results. And then you have a very short introductory paragraph just restating the objective of the study. And since their first question is about the dose of their plant material, so kaya yan yung una nila dito. Okay? Pero sa kanila, nahati kasi itong textual presentation nila. Pwede din naman kasing unahan mo muna ng parang introduction about the table and then followed by the table itself and then another textual presentation. So nag-highlight lang din kasi sila ng results nila here. So do not forget the description always kasi yung mga numbers dyan kailangan may verbal description or verbal interpretation, talaga yan siya na included in the table para madaling maintindihan ng readers kung anong ibig sabihin ng 268, 306. So sa kanila kasi negative yan siya na result. So as you can see, even the negative results are being presented. Okay? So marami pa silang table here. And then again, always followed by the textual presentation. The same lang naman yung pag-present ng experimental and descriptive na research. The same lang. And then limited lang yung ating textual presentation kasi you just have to describe what is in the table kasi. No discussion, no interpretation. Kung titingnan ninyo, mas mahaba pa yung discussion section nila kasi again, the interpretations will be written here. Okay? Any questions so far as I look for an example of a quali research? Hanapin ko pa kasi. Hindi ko kasi ito na-check sa kanila, Joshua. Let us see how they presented the results of their study. Makapangayo og copy. Sa ato, katong ila Abner, katong ano, what? Fear mongering. Sige, mananghid ako sa ilaha, tapos once na mag-okay sila, I will give you a copy. Post ko na lang doon sa Schoology. Okay? So this one is for the quali na research. So for the group class na may quali na research, this is how you are going to present the results of your study. I don't know kung na-edit ito. Hindi ko kasi sure kung final paper ito. But let us see. Synthesis, methodology, and results. Inisa pala nila ang results and discussion here. Pero you can actually separate. This is not a final paper kasi hindi pa pala ito final paper, hindi ito edited. Kasi kung edited ito, pwede siyang isabay, results and discussion. Pwede ding hiwalay sila, pero we will be having findings of the study here. Ito yung magiging title. So you just remove the results here. Okay? So as you can see, they still have the introductory paragraph here, and they have the table. Pero the table is just to summarize the themes. Kasi sa quali na research, since wala tayong numerical data here, puros lang words, yung results talaga is mag-focus into the themes that you will be identifying coming from the results of your interview. So, ginamit lang nila ang table to summarize the themes na nakuha nila sa interview nila. Okay, pero the rest nito class, ayan, figures na or graphs na, and also the textual presentation. So like this one, figure 3.1, this is the first result nila, patient care concept map. Yung sa qualitative na research, since you don't have statement of the problem, hindi naman talaga necessary na may logical sequence. Again, kaya wala kayong SOP. Pero yung mga themes na lang, depende na sa pag-identify ninyo sa themes. Kagaya nito, yung first, anong first theme nila na nakuha dito? Let me check. Yung first theme nila is patient care. So kaya yung unang present din nila dito is patient care. So they included graphical presentation of what constitutes patient care according to the answers of the medical technologist. Kasi medical technologist man yung nila dito, participants. So ito daw, according sa mga medtech, ito yung nagko-constitute sa patient care. So, iisa-isa din nilang explain yan. So, you have the protection and safety. Explain yan nila isa-isa, and they will include significant statements coming from the answers of the participants. Okay? So, ito actually mga significant statements na lang ito. And you will have this if you are done with your interview. Kasi isasalin nyo talaga yung answers ng participants niyo here. I will give you a copy of this after asking permission sa kanila. Pero take note, si Soverna and groupmates, ito yung pinakamahaba na part sa paper ng quali na research. Since puros words ang inyong results kay coming from an interview, mahaba talaga. So look at this. Nasa figure 3 pa lang siya for the emergent themes. So hanggang, depende kung sa kadaghan inyong makuha nga themes, o po na kadaghan ang inyong results. So daghan, taas. Muna siya kung ginaingon nga trabahoso ang quantitative na research, kay mag-experiment ka, pa ka og like questionnaires and so on, pero konti lang yung results natin for quanti. Sa quali, mag-i-interview ka lang, pero since words lahat ng answer ng iyong participants, sulat mo siya lahat dito. Ayan. So kaya mahaba masyado ang kanilang results section. So aside sa kanilang mga graphs, kailangan mo pa ninyo kasi siya i-explain isa-isa. Yeah, mag-include pa mo og kanang statement gyud verbatim, quote and quote from the participants. And then meron pa talaga yan silang ganito. I don't know if they have included since this is not the final paper. Kaya wala nila na-include. Mag-include pa sila ng transcript dito sa last part. When you say transcript, verbatim, pati pag-ubos sa inyong participant, nakasulat yan dyan na nag-ubos sila. So, mo na siya nga taas-taas jud pag quali na research. And you really have to ensure na ma-record ninyo ha, pag-ask lang mong permission. Kaya di ba yan ninyo ni ma-memorize sa kadaghanan ni. Like this one, work pressure. Ito yung mga sagot ng mga participants. Okay? So, meron ka dyang explanation of what work pressure is, what anxiety is for them while working during the pandemic. Pero this is for them. This is for their research. Siyempre, iba din sa inyo. Pero kayo yung mag-a-identify ng themes na yan to be included in the results section. Nakadepende kasi yan sa result ng interview. Okay, any question? Again, just wait na lang. I need to ask permission pa from them if they are okay with the giving of soft copies sa inyo. Pwede, okay lang sa akin kasi kung ako lang para may guide kayo. Pero syempre, dili man ako research, mananghid sa ta. Okay? Questions so far about the results section? Wala.